Hi everyone, we are going to draw the single view drawing figure 4-52 base plate in AutoCAD today. So the first thing that you'll want to do is open up the picture of the drawing, which I already have open on my computer, and you will also need to download the AutoCAD template. So if you are in Moodle, you can click on that AutoCAD template and you're going to download your file. Now in this class you're going to need to keep track of your drawings, so it's a great idea if you save your drawing files all in the same folder. So you want to create a folder on your laptop or computer, wherever you're working, and keep all of those drawing files in, a class file or whatever you want to call it. Maybe you call it your drawing projects. But you want to keep all those files together, and you want to name them appropriately, because AutoCAD by default will name them drawing 1, drawing 2, and so forth. But when you have 45 drawings in that folder, you don't want all of them named drawing 1, 2, 3, 4, and so forth. So it's a good idea to name the drawing after either the figure number or the drawing title. So when you have the AutoCAD template downloaded, when you open up AutoCAD, to get your file toolbar to stay open, you're going to come right here at the top, and if you can see my mouse, you'll click on the little arrow and you'll come down here, and yours should say show menu bar. And when that happens, you'll have your file pull down menu and your format, and so you'll have other menu options, and that's what we want. So you can go to File, New to use a template, or you can do a new sheet up here at the top. This where it has A and then the new sheet, and open a new drawing and save and so forth. But File, New is a way to get to it. Now when you're searching for a template, you're going to have to go back to the folder in which you saved that template. So for me, my template file is in my documents, and I'm going to come in here and choose ANSI A template. Alright, so now we're drawing with a template. Why does that matter? There are things that we've set up on this template that helps us in AutoCAD. We'll go through and I'll show you how to set up the layers and other things. I want to show you some drawing tips first before we take you through all of the layer properties and all of the formatting options and that kind of thing. So we want to do those smaller items first, like learning how to use the line, learning how to move and rotate and those kinds of things, and then eventually you can set up your own template. But for now, using this template will help you refer to or already know and have everything loaded like we need it loaded. Alright, so we are going to go ahead and start drawing the base plate. If we look at it, I'm going to copy it over into AutoCAD, and you can copy and paste a picture into AutoCAD. I just right clicked and copied, and I'm going to come back over and I'm going to go to Edit and Paste. And AutoCAD, if you notice your command bar down on the middle of the screen here, AutoCAD will tell you what it wants you to do next. So if you're having trouble with the interface, read your command bar, because then it knows, or you know what input AutoCAD is looking for. So it's telling me to scale it. Do I want a rotation angle? It's already 0, so I'm going to hit enter, and you say no to any kind of rotation. Alright, so we have this base plate, and when we start, it looks like there's a main center point right here in the middle, and we're going to work off that center point. So the first thing that we're going to do, we know we need center lines, and we need to make those straight. So down here in the corner, we have some different items that help us to make our geometry straight. One is ortho. So we're going to learn an orthographic projection, which is the next step after single view drawings. We'll learn that we make lines at 90 degrees from one another, and everything is perpendicular. All the views line up. So AutoCAD has what we call ortho to make our lines either straight vertical or straight horizontal. And then we have polar, which allows us to choose a rotation angle if we do need to make lines at an angle, and they will still be perfectly straight. So for right now, I want you to click on ortho and make sure when it turns a different color from the rest of the start bar here, then we know that it's on. Another thing that you'll want to have on is object snap. If we click on the little arrow next to object snap, it allows us to choose everything that we want to snap to. This ensures our accuracy. If we do not have OSNAP on or ortho, then our lines are not straight and they are not connected. So we need to have both of those on. For your ortho or the OSNAP, you need to have at least endpoint, midpoint, center point, quadrant, intersection, and perpendicular are some good ones to start with. We can add more as we go if we need them, but you need at least those 7 or 6. Node is something that's a little bit more specialized later that we get into, but if you want to go ahead and check it, that's fine, but you make sure that at least those are checked. I tell people at first not to check everything, because when you check everything, all of your lines are going to snap to everything that you get close to with your mouse, and you do not want that to happen. So for now, just do the endpoint, midpoint, center, quadrant, intersection, and perpendicular, and that's going to help you stay accurate in your drawing. So we're going to start with just using a line, the simplest command, and the line icon is going to look the same whether you're using a MacBook or a PC. So just find the line command. You can also type it in on the keyboard. You can do L for line and it'll come up. So we're going to click on line. Now we're going to read our command bar. Very important to read your command bar. So the first thing we're going to do is click one time to start a line. And I'm not really measuring anything. I've got it about, right here it says it's about 6.5 inches. That's fine. My drawing height was 5 and the width is 8.5. So I want to have about 6 inches, 6.5 inches is fine. We can trim it and make it what we need it to be. Now I'm going to draw another line horizontally. So I click one time. I want it to be, probably, that's fine. I don't have it equal on both sides, but we'll figure it out. It's best to draw with a mouse. So if you do not have a mouse, you need to get one, because it's nearly impossible to draw with engineering software without a mouse. If you are using your mouse, when you want to zoom in and out, all you have to do is roll your mouse button, the middle button, your roll button. You can roll it in and out. If I roll it down, it zooms out. If I roll it up, it zooms in. Okay? I can also press the middle mouse button down and this hand pops up. This is called the pan command, and it allows me just to kind of move everything on my screen. Now that doesn't change the size of my drawing. All it does is changes the perspective to me, so it just makes it zoom in or out, kind of like with your camera. Your camera doesn't change the size of people if you're taking pictures of people, but you can zoom in and out. Alright, so now we're going to work off of the center points that we have. And this square, you can see that it's a 3-inch square, so that means it's 3 inches on all sides, and it's coming from the center point. So if we have half of that square, it's going to be 1.5 inches. So we can't measure, we don't have a scale that we can put on AutoCAD or on our screen and measure over 3 inches and draw a line. It doesn't work that way. So our measuring tool in AutoCAD is our ability to type in the distances, and we have what we call offset command. So the offset will make a line a certain distance away from another line, or make a circle a certain distance away from another circle, and we tell it the distance. So I'm going to click on offset, and the first thing that you have to do is specify a distance, and you'll notice that it says that in the command bar. So specify distance. If we're working from the center line, our distance is 1.5. So we're going to go 1.5, and then we're going to hit enter. So a little note about AutoCAD: anytime you type in something like a distance, you have to hit enter afterwards for it to take. You notice my cursor changed a little bit. I'm going to click on that vertical line. I'm going to move my mouse to the right, and look, I'm moving my mouse really far to the right, but it's making my line 1.5 because I told it to be that distance. So I'm going to click on it again, move to the left, because it doesn't matter. I can move my mouse way over here, but that line is only going to be made the distance I told it to. Okay? So the sequence again, if you missed that, we're going to click on offset. We're going to type in our distance. Now it kept my distance from last time, but I'm showing you this again just so you can remember. After you type something in, you're going to hit enter. Okay? When you have a selection box come up instead of your cursor, you click on the line that you want to offset. Here I'm going to offset up. I'm going to click on it again, and I'm going to offset down. So now we have a square. Okay? Now our lines are a little bit too long. We don't want them that long. So we're going to use what we call the trim command. We're going to click on trim, and AutoCAD, at first when you click on trim, it makes everything a cutting edge. So anything that I click on is going to trim off. So if I want to click on this line, you see how it fades out. And I'll do my click again. So anything that I click on, it trims away. Now I want to keep my center line, so I'm not going to trim them. What I just did, I clicked one time for my mouse, and then I'm just moving my mouse, and I'm going to click again. That's just a trim line. So we don't have to actually click on the object. We can click and draw a line through the object. Okay? Alright, and now I've trimmed everything up. So there's two ways to get out of commands. I can hit escape on my keyboard, or I can right click and choose enter. Okay, and in some cases you can also choose enter on your keyboard. So keep that in mind. Escape is going to be your friend in AutoCAD. Also, the undo button is going to be your friend. So if something didn't work out the way you thought it should, hit the undo button. Alright, if we're looking at our dimensions, we're going to come off of the square 1 inch. So this square will have an offset of 1 inch to get to the rectangle, the smaller rectangle. And you'll notice that it's also 1 inch below the center line, and the whole rectangle is 2 inches. So while we're offsetting, if we have 1 inch here, 1 inch down, and then this whole thing is 2 inches, then we could go ahead and create all those lines. Okay? And we also have that same rectangle on the other side. So we can do both of them. And we're going to do the offset command again. We're going to click on it. Our distance is 1. So I'm typing in 1, enter. I'm going to click on this line, offset to the right. And the reason why I chose that line is because that is where my dimension was located here. Then I'm going to choose this line, offset to the left and the center line, and I'm going to offset to the top and the bottom of that center line. Okay, so I just right click, choose enter, or I can hit escape on my keyboard to get out of that command. Now the next dimension is this 3/4 of an inch dimension. Okay, so that's the width of the rectangle. So we're going to have to type that in to offset, and when we do, 3/4 of an inch is also 0.75 in decimal form. AutoCAD's pretty intuitive, so if I click on offset, if I don't know what the decimal equivalent is, I can actually type in 3/4 and it will do it for me. So if you have a fraction, let's say you have 3/16, and you don't know what the decimal equivalent is, you can just type in 3/16 and it'll do it for you. So I'm going to hit enter there, and I'm going to choose this line, offset to the right, and choose this line, and you notice the decimal equivalent 0.75 is popping up, so we know we are accurate. So again, our lines are a little too long, so we need to trim those up. And we can also trim, it made lines inside of our square here, so we need to get rid of those as well. And we're just going around and clicking on those lines and getting them all trimmed up. And now I'm going to right click, hit enter, or escape on the keyboard, and we'll be done with that command. Now we're looking at the outside of this object. So the outside of the object has some angles. We have a 30-degree angle here and a 2¼ angle here. And your chapters did talk about polar coordinates just a little bit. You're going to see that in action. We're going to at first try to find our start point for this angle. So we know it's 2¼ inches over on the right, and then from that point we're going to make a 30-degree angle. So we have to find this point first. It's 30 degrees from the horizontal, so we have to find that start point, and then we'll turn on polar coordinates and make that 30 degrees. So to find that start point, we have to get our overall dimensions of this object. So if the total height is 5, half of 5 is 2½. So we're going to offset from that center line up 2½ and down 2½. And then the width of the object, the overall width was 8½. So half of 8½ is 4¼ and we're going to offset to the right and to the left 4¼ So let's go ahead and do that. We'll do the 2.5 first. So we're going to click on offset, type in 2.5, enter, and we're clicking on this horizontal line. We're going to the top, clicking on it again, and clicking one time for the bottom. So that's giving us our 5-inch total height, and then half of 8½ was 4.25 or 4¼ So we'll offset that distance now. So I'm clicking on offset, I'm typing in 4.25, enter. I'm clicking on the vertical center line, and I'm going to the right and the left with the offset. So now I have somewhat of a dilemma because my lines don't go all the way out. That's okay. We can extend it out. We can click on the line. A simple way to extend that line would be to click in the little blue grip. These little boxes on the lines are called grips. So I can click in that grip, and you can kind of see it is allowing me to move it when I do that. And if you have perpendicular on in your OSnap, it'll snap right perpendicular to the line where we need it to be. Okay, I can do that down here. If your line was longer and you don't need to do this, that's fine too. Okay, if at some point your line wasn't long enough somewhere else, then that's a way you can stretch it out. There are other ways as well, but that works for us for right now. And we could go ahead and trim. We're going to end up trimming anyway when we do our angles, so we're okay for now. The 2 1/4 is what we're looking for now. We're going to go over 2 1/4 and make that 30-degree angle. So to get that marker, we're just going to use offset, and we're going to type in 2.25, enter, and I'm going to click on the leftmost line and move my mouse to the right and do the same thing on the other side. So this intersection here, 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 and here are the intersections that start that angle. So to get a 30-degree angle, we actually have to make our polar setting to snap to every 30 degrees. So right here we have ortho, the next one is polar tracking, and we're going to click on the little arrow next to polar tracking and click on that 30 degrees. So now every angle that we make, it will snap to those 30-degree marks. So we're going to go to the line command. We're going to click on this intersection, and we're going to move our mouse. Now I want you to look at what the angle actually says in AutoCAD. So if we have a polar angle, then it's if this is 90 degrees at the vertical, and then we look at the horizontal, this is 180. We need 30 degrees up from the horizontal. So our angle is actually 180 minus 30, which is 150. So our angle is going to be 150. And you'll know that it's snapping to every 30 degrees because of the green dotted line that comes up. So I could try to get exactly where I needed to be on that line, or I could extend it out so I know that it's exactly 150 degrees. And you know, we're going to trim anyway, so it's not really adding too much to our efficiency there, or taking away from our efficiency. So I can go ahead and click and end that line. Now if we're coming from this intersection at the top, and you're going straight out, it's still going to be 180 degrees, but we're going to have 180 plus 30 this time. So when we take our line command and click on that intersection, and we come down at that 30 degrees, if you come straight over, you'll see the 180, and then when you come down, it's 180 plus 30, which is actually a 210 degree angle. Okay, so it works off the same Cartesian coordinate system you'll see in your trig classes, and it just allows us to make angles all the way around. If we come from this intersection going straight out, that's 0, or if we're in a full circle, it's 360. But if we need it 360 minus 0, that could be either input as negative 30 or 330 degrees. And then we'll do the same thing here on the bottom. I'm just using the line command, clicking on that intersection, making sure my coordinates are what they need to be here. So here is 0. We're actually going up 30 from 0. So this is the only one that's actually the 30 degree angle as far as what AutoCAD inputs for the polar coordinate. But when you see that it lands on 30, you can go ahead and do your second click and end that line. So now we just have some trimming to do. We're going to click on trim, and anything that we don't need, like these corners, we can trim off. The extra lines from the angles. And if I know that I'm going to trim a lot of stuff and I can draw that trim line through it, then you know that's much quicker, and I can keep that trim line going. And I accidentally trimmed my center line down here, but that's okay, we can get it back. And actually I don't need this line, that was only for measurement purposes. so I can get rid of it. So now we're left with this base plate. We have all of the information that we need from the dimensions on the drawing. We will need to know that it's figure 4-52 base plate to put it in the title block, but for now we don't even need this picture anymore. And so if you pasted your picture in there, make sure you delete them when you're done. So I'm just going to click on it and hit delete on my keyboard. I could also hit erase up here. The little pencil with the eraser mark is erase. But I'm going to clean up my center lines and actually make them center lines. So I'm going to drag this out a little bit. Center lines go a little bit outside the object. So if you watched my videos or have done some board drawing, then you'll know that center lines are really important, and it's important to keep those at standard. Now I'm in Polar still, and it's letting me make these lines at 90 degrees, but it's safer probably at first when you're drawing just to toggle back over to ortho so we know that those lines are at 90 degrees. But all I did is kind of put the same amount around on all sides for those center lines, and we made that in a 0 layer. By default we come in the 0 layer. We want to make those into center lines though, so I'm going to click on both of those lines, and I can do this at the same time. I'll click on one, then click on the other, and then I can come up here. If you click just inside this box here where it says 0, then you can choose center, and I've already got the layers and the line types loaded for you, so it automatically turns those to center lines. Now to deselect something, you hit escape on the keyboard. So in AutoCAD, deselecting or getting out of command, escape will do it for you. Okay, so for now this drawing looks good. If by some chance you get zoomed way out, or you can't find your object because you rolled your mouse, anywhere your mouse is, like my cursor is right here, so if I roll my mouse, it's going to roll into where my cursor is. So if I want to look in the center of this object, I need to put the mouse in the center of the object and then roll. So if I'm looking up here, wherever my cursor is, that's where it's zooming into. So if by chance you lose your object, you should have a toolbar over here that has all of your view commands in it, but you're looking for zoom. And if by some chance you don't have this toolbar, then you can actually type in zoom in the command bar down here and it'll give you options. But zoom extents, and there is a little arrow underneath here if if you need a different kind of zoom, or zoom extents is not showing up for you, but it's the arrows like the X with a little magnifying glass. That's zoom extents. It'll bring everything into the picture for you and center it up on your screen. And remember, zoom doesn't change the size of your object, it just changes the perspective of where you see it on your screen. So I've got it zoom extents. It's always a good idea to save as you go. We haven't even done one save yet, but we need to save all of these files as we go because AutoCAD can crash. Any drawing can be lost if you do not save as you go. So to save the drawing, we can do the icons up here. The second one with the little pencil is save as, or we can go to file pull down menu and do a save as. There's also a Q save. If you type in Q save on the command bar, it will save it as well. So we're going to click on save as, and this is figure 4-52 base plate. And you'll have to type this in. Again, you want to go to your folder. So if you've made a folder on your computer somewhere, say in my documents, and you've made a folder, go to that folder. And if you haven't made a folder, you can create a new folder. Okay, so go to that folder, and you're going to save your drawing file in that folder. Now, files of type, it should say .dwg as the extension. All right, if it's saying something else, you need to change that to AutoCAD.dwg and then type in base plate. It's a very good idea to put your initials on the end of that too. So you can do like an underscore, and my initials would be AT, so I could do AT on that. That allows you to separate yourself from everybody else's drawings whenever you upload them. Drawings files they have the same name. Sometimes they do get mixed up, so it's a good idea to put your initials in your file name. Alright, now we're not completely finished. I'm going to toggle over to the layout so I can show you how to print this. So right now we're drawing in model space. If you look down here on the left of your screen, you'll see the model. If you click on layout 1, I have this title block already created for you, and you're going to see part of your drawing. Now if you don't see part of your drawing, that's okay, I'll show you how to get it. But this is called paper space, and you can see right here on the lower right next to ortho it says paper. And what it allows us to do is set up our paper size that we're going to print to, and then it allows us to scale our drawing to what we need it to be scaled to. So in order to scale our drawing, I'm going to double click inside here. You'll notice these highlighted lines that become real dark. This is called a viewport. So the viewport is kind of like a window into model space. Whatever we drew in model space is going to show up in our viewport. And you'll notice that this icon comes up again when we're in the viewport command. Instead of being on the side of our screen, it comes up right inside the viewport. That's how we'll know that we're in model space. And it will also say model down here where it used to say paper. Okay, you'll notice the icon, the UCS symbol, is changed from the paper space symbol. In paper space there was a triangle over here. So notice whether you're in model space or paper space. And you want to be in model space, so we double clicked inside our viewport and it put us in model space. We're going to hit zoom extents to center our drawing. Alright, that centers it up for us, but we also want it to be to scale. So right now we don't have any kind of drawing scale. When we print this, it's not necessarily going to be able to be made because it's not to scale. So we're going to come down here on this little ortho toolbar all the way over to where you're going to see some numbers, and it's scale of the selected viewport. And we're going to click on that little arrow beside it, and we want this to be a 1:1 scale. This is full scale, and we learned about our scales last week. So we want it to be full scale. It should say 1:1 after we click that, and then we're going to lock the viewport. If we don't lock the viewport, the next time I zoom, it changes that scale. So you can see I zoomed in and out and my scale changed again. So we don't want that to happen. So once we have it where we want it and it's centered and it's scaled, we're going to hit this little lock button, and that's going to turn blue. And then if I try to zoom, it will not change the size of my object in perspective to me. It just zooms all the way, the whole paper zooms. You'll notice that it's not centered up as much anymore. What I did when I zoomed in and out, I put it off center. So I'm going to unlock it, hit zoom extents, change my scale back to 1:1, and then lock it back. And that keeps it right in the center of my viewport in my drawing. Okay, now I need to fill in my title block. So I'm going to double click out here in the gray area. This is back to paper space. Notice my icon has changed and it says paper here. Then I can click on any of these letters that I've already put in here for you and change what it says. So I'm going to double click on drawing title. This drawing is called base plate, so I'm going to make sure my caps lock is on. And engineering drawings, we always use capital letters. So base plate is the name of this one. The scale, I can double click on it. It is 1:1. So I'm doing 1:1. And then the figure number was 4-52. And then the drawn by, the only thing I need to change when I double click on this one is put my name here. Okay, and if my name's a little bit too long, then I can backspace it. Now I'll double click on the date, and we can put a date in here. Okay, and then this is going to be sheet 1/1, so we're going to put 1/1, and putting a space between it might make it not fit in our title block, so I'm going to take some of these spaces out. When you fill this in, make sure, and then I just clicked out of the title block over here, and I want to just right click and hit enter to get out of that command. But make sure that all of your letters are staying within the title block, okay? And we'll talk more about how everything is set up as we go. I just wanted you to be able to complete a first real engineering drawing. So we could actually make this part, it's to scale. We would need to put dimensions and notes on it, and we'll get to that. But you know, right now it's 1:1 scale, so if we printed it out on a piece of paper and put a scale up to it, you know, 3 inches would actually be 3 inches. So when we're talking about scales, the first number, if it says 1:1, the first number is on your paper and the second number is real life. So if it's 1 inch on your paper, it's also 1 inch in real life. So we could actually use this drawing to for production purposes. So we're still in paper space. Our little zoom tool is still over here, so we're going to hit zoom extents, and we're going to do a final save. And I want you to always do a zoom extents before you do a final save. And now we can upload this DWG file into Moodle to turn me in. Okay. Hope you enjoyed creating your first single view drawing in AutoCAD.